Sounds
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality. Actually, it's not so strange today, and I hope that some of these people that are kind of watching me and stuff that's going on, it's not going to be that strange. So bug off for this show. But I have a great guest that I found her on LinkedIn, and I noticed that she's had a lot of workings with she's a treasure hunter, and she's been involved with a lot of different TV shows, and the Oak Island. You might know that. I watched that pretty much, and it's just kind of like every time they're on the show, they come close to finding something, and then they don't. It's just that suspense and drama, so I have Gypsy Jewels and her Woods. I guess you use her name Woods, Gypsy.
Yeah, that's my last name. I just go by Gypsy Jules most of the time, but Gypsy is of course my nickname, but
Okay.
my
Well,
real name is
yeah,
Michelle, but
yeah.
everybody calls me.
Yeah, Michelle Gypsy Jewels Woods, and we'll make it that all that right there in the line. But uh, she's had some fascinating background in what she does, and a lot different than what this show usually covers. But I actually get into archaeology, and that's close to what Gypsy does. But she's had a lot of time in doing this. Gypsy Jewel's passion for treasure started when she was a little girl, from exploring the mountains of West Texas with her father, looking for artifacts and fossils, to scavenging dumps or walking alleys, diving dumpsters. You can find interesting things in there, I guess. Antiques, whatever. Gypsy bought her first metal detector over 25 years ago after running into a couple of beach, I guess, a couple at a beach, not in a beach, at a beach, okay, in South Texas, who showed her what they had found after an early morning search on the beach. She started on the beaches of Galveston. I've been there, nice place, searching for rings, coins, and shipwreck treasures. Now she continues her quest for relics and treasures all over the world. Gypsy's passion has remained the same since she was a young girl, whether it's metal detecting for coins, relics, and gold, digging bottles in an old dump, or looking for fossils and native artifacts. She spends the majority of her time chasing her passion for finding treasure and preserving history. Wow, we're going to find out some of the things that you found and some of the interesting things. And also if you got something like paranormal you want to tell us. You was talking about something that you had, but this might happen in a cave or something that you might go in. So Gypsy Jewels, welcome to the show. And
Thank
could you add on to that? And I know you was talking about a book that's coming out soon. You don't have to mention a title or anything, but you can tell
you.
us a little bit about the topic of it.
Sure. Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me here. It was great meeting you on LinkedIn and connecting. And it's always neat how we meet from all different aspects of life. I get, you said you're used to having like strange reality, on your show, but I get those strange looks when I'm out metal detecting. People, oh, that weird girl over there, what is she doing? And so I get the strange looks from time to time, especially when I first got started. I felt a little paranoid, metal detecting on the beach sometimes, and I would be the only one out there. But then you don't feel so strange once you've pulled something out of the ground that is potentially worth a lot of money, or it could be very old and have a really neat story behind it, or a historical story behind it. So that's what I love about what I do, is being able to connect history and connect the present with the past, or with an object when I get out and metal detect. So it's definitely my true passion, and to share with others what I love to do, and how it can affect their lives too. Even if they don't ever pick up a metal detector, it's just fun to be able to share my stories
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah, with the book, I've got a book coming out hopefully soon. I'm hoping it'll be out before Christmas, or in time for Christmas. It should be available on Amazon. I wish I had a cover here. My graphic artist just got my jacket done for my book, but it's called Just Digging. just digging it.
Just
Uh,
good with it. Yeah.
just digging. And it's actually a beginner's guide to metal detecting, because that's probably the most question I get asked most of the time, is how do I get started doing what you do? Because when people see what I find, uh, that curiosity is piqued, just like I was 25 years ago. And when I first, purchased my first metal detector, is my curiosity was piqued by this couple coming up from the beach, and when they showed me their finds, I was just like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I got to try this.
Yeah. What did they find? What were the
So they
objects?
told me they had a handful of coins that they had found that morning. They found a pendant, a pendant, and they had a ring that they had found too. And I was just like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I've got it.
Well,
I've got
you're in a fascinating area or topic or field, because on TV you have like gold miners. That those shows are going over good. You got the Curse of Oak Island, and of course you're going to tell us about what you said you was on the show after Oak Island or whatever that is added on. But also you've been on other TV shows, and you were on Uncharted Expeditions episode 4 on YouTube, Discovery's TV Gold Rush, Freddy Dodge's Mine Rescue. I think we've seen those. I've seen those shows. And 2021 History Channel season 2 Beyond Oak Island. That's Beyond Oak Island episodes 3, 5, and 7. I know people interested in that. It's one of the top shows going, I believe. So yes, you are even. A lot of people are interested, Gypsy. I'm interested. My wife's interested in looking for diamonds and jewels and semi-precious stones, and they can do that in Arkansas, and that's not really far away from me, and it's not far from you either, and they can do that there. Tell us about your, like you said, you got involved in this, and how did you get involved in TV and all these other shows?
All right. So a lot of that started years ago. If you go to my YouTube channel is called Zero Discrimination. You can check out all the different types of treasure hunting there are that I do. I do everything from magnet fishing, um, which is really popular right now. Magnet fishing to, like you mentioned, crystals. I love fossil hunting, crystal digging, any types of treasure, really. Even like you mentioned in my bio with dumpster diving. That's
Yes.
that's even become really popular. It's amazing what people throw away. Even some of these new stores today, they'll. I don't do as much dumpster diving these days because I spend more time digging in the dirt and looking for the older relics. That really fascinates me. Anything to do with, as bad as war is, I don't. Of course, I don't like war, but I tend to find a lot of stuff where I live, and then being close to Louisiana, a lot of stuff from the Civil War.
Right.
It's fascinating when you dig up something like that, and you're able to connect it with a certain time period, and even connect it to what um, the history that's recorded, or sometimes you discover stuff that you didn't even know that, just like you said, a lot of archaeologists does sometimes is they go to an area and unexpectedly, maybe they've just got a hunch or something about an area, or they find remnants of the past. Like sometimes when I go out into a field, I may not even have time to research, like a plowed field, let's say in Louisiana, and I hadn't even had time to research to see if there was ever any homesteads there or plantations or anything there. But then you look down on the ground and you start finding little shards of glass or old buttons, marbles, things like that. And that's a telltale sign that there was something there, something occurred. And then when you start putting the coil to the soil, is what we say in metal detecting, and start swinging your metal detector, and then you start digging out those objects where, okay, I just dug a Civil War bullet. Well, who was the last person that, was it a fired bullet or was it a dropped bullet? And there's a story behind all of that as well.
Right.
So it becomes very fascinating.
It sounds like it. I have an archaeologist coming on. He's talking about the giant bones that
Oh, yeah.
find. Have you ever found? I'll get to that. Yeah, have you ever found something like gold or metal attached to a skeleton, and then you
That
had to back away, Gypsy?
that I haven't had that happen. I've helped out with some police work in the past. Also, when I was living in Galveston, here's kind of a several of my friends, one of my friends that was in our metal detecting club, he was metal detecting on a beach there, not far, kind of down from Galveston, where they have these little sand dunes on the side. And he was detecting up against the sand dunes, and he dug down, and there was a belt buckle there, but the belt buckle was attached to a body.
Mm.
Um, and once I was metal detecting in Galveston, and there was a gentleman had just walked up that was metal detecting as well. And he's like, "You got to see this in the water." So I looked over. Inside the water was like this flowing blonde hair, just flowing. And that's always been one of my biggest fears, that I would happen upon a body,
Yeah,
while
right.
metal detecting. And we just knew it was going to be a body, because this looked like real hair flowing. And finally, we were about to call the police, and he kept saying, "Well, you go check and see what that is." And I'm like, "No, you go check." Finally, he got up enough nerve to go look. And the weirdest thing, it wasn't a body, thank goodness, but it was a rocking horse, like a kid's rocking horse.
Right.
And I had, like, for the mane, it had this long blonde hair attached.
Yeah.
So that was creepy.
Was the rocking horse of historical value? Was it an old
Um,
antique?
it was a wooden rocking horse. I don't know if it had where it had washed in from, or what the story behind it was, but I was just relieved that it wasn't a body. Um, but I've helped with some cases where, to help find bullets. I was recently contacted about helping with a missing person case, where, like if someone had a pacemaker, the pacemakers most of the time are made out of titanium,
Mhm.
and that would be something that I could search for to help find, bodies as well. So that's something else that I'm looking into, because I have a really good friend, uh, and she would be a great, amazing guest for, if you haven't had her on already, you probably know her. Jeanette Matista.
No,
Uh,
no.
She's a psychic.
Yeah,
I'll her information, Dave, and she'd be perfect for your podcast. So her and I have actually teamed up together, and what she does is her past history. She's worked on some high profile cases for missing people.
right.
She's also a treasure hunter. And once you have her on, you'll hear more detailed of her story. But she
Well,
met me.
wait, Gypsy, we must be linked here because I was going to ask you, do you combine sometimes the knowledge, like you say, the shards on top of the ground, and that might be a good place to dig or to metal detect? Do you have a gut feeling, or are you kind of psychic when you go to these locations and you can
Yeah,
feel
I
things?
have an intuition for
Yeah,
sure. I think that's one of my clairs, is kind of that knowing or intuition, and that gut feeling that I get. And we all have it. I believe we all have it. And that's something I'm trying to tap more into, is more of that ability, and or my psychic abilities, which I guess we all have, but some of us are just really in tune to it.
right.
Others aren't.
They
But
they practice it more. Yeah.
they do practice it more. So I'm just now learning that aspect for myself. But recently, this past year, I met Jeanette Matista. Matiste, I'm probably butchering her last name. This renowned psychic, and what we've done is we've teamed up and we're working together. It hopefully, we're getting close to signing our a contract with a new production company for a TV show that we'll be working on.
That would
And
be great. Yeah. If you send me the link on that, if you ever get to go through and get that contract, send me a link and I'll put it out on Facebook and the link
okay,
and everything. Uh, I was, a lot of people that's going to be watching you are people that might be interested in getting a start, just like you did when you was a child on a beach and everything.
Uh-huh.
What would you tell somebody that's a beginner, that that doesn't has never operated a metal detector or anything?
Mm,
What could you tell them to get started? And then I'd like to go into some of your finds and some of your biggest finds. And but
sure.
could you tell us a little bit how you get started? My wife would even like to know this too. So,
Sure.
Gypsy, tell us how somebody can get started in this field.
Okay. Well, first thing, like when I first purchased my first metal detector, I didn't know anything about metal detecting. And so I ran out, and there back then it was Radio Shacks were popular, and that's where I'd seen a metal detector. So I went to a local Radio Shack, purchased a metal detector for, I think it was $129. Um, Now I think you can go to Harbor Freight and maybe purchase one for about $30, something like that.
That's not bad.
Um, it's not bad.
No.
Um, but what I've learned is now those can get you started. Um, the thing is, some of those machines aren't as powerful, so they may only give you a couple inches in depth on the object, and it depends. My most common question is how deep will one of these machines go? Well, it really depends on what kind of equipment, what kind of metal detector you're using. Plus, it depends on the size of the object. The larger the object, the deeper your detector will pick it up. So, if you're looking for, like, if you're just using one of those little bitty inexpensive Harbor Freight $50 detector that may only go about 2 inches on a coin, well, on a jar of coins, it might go, like, if there was a back in the 20s when they didn't believe in banks, maybe someone buried a cache of coins in the backyard, and they buried a jar, and it might go a foot or so. But the more powerful detectors, I'm actually sponsored by Garrett Metal Detectors now. Garrett Metal Detectors are made in the USA, and made a lot better than some of the made in China stuff
Right.
that you
Yeah,
can.
we're talking about Ford prices as compared to a Rolls Royce, right?
Right, exactly.
And how much is that? Is that span on cost? What is it? You go from 59 to you can go really a lot, right, Gypsy?
Yeah, you can start out for a beginner, like a Garrett beginner machine, around 125 to $150 for a starter, a
Mhm.
decent starter machine. And then you can go all the way up, depends on what type of detecting. One of the most popular ones that I use is around $499.
Mhm.
Not bad, really, because I've seen people purchase that machine and go out their first day on the beach and find a diamond ring that,
Huh. Wow.
that pays for their machine. So it happens.
Yeah.
I would recommend research first, kind of find the best machines on the market for your budget is how I'll say it. So if you're willing to spend about $150 or to a $500, kind of look at the machines on the market. But a lot of people will, their first thing is they'll go jump on Amazon or some of these places, and they don't look at the brands.
Hmm.
Um, into a lot of them, if you're not careful, it'll be made in China, and you kind of get what you pay for. They may not last long. They don't come with a warranty a lot of the times. So that's what I like about Garrett. It's made in the USA. Starts you out around $150. It's got a 2-year warranty. And you've got a place right here in the US. If you got any questions, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm having issues with my machine, or I'm not understanding this, and they'll help you out. And they've got tutorial videos, similar to what I put out on my YouTube channel as well. But that's just one brand. There's other brands on the market that start around the same price and then go up. Um, some people always think, though, that most expensive means better, and that's not always so.
That's true.
Uh,
It's true.
like the Rolls Royce,
Yeah.
You could probably like that $499 machine. There's other machines on the market that are um, you know a couple $1,000s for those detectors. Now you may get a few more bells and whistles, but are you going to find more treasure with those not
Yeah,
necessarily.
right. You want something that'll pay for itself probably on the first time or two out. Now you do have instructional, I guess, YouTube you mentioned, and you have the review Garrett Apex metal detector for women's outdoors news. You've done these articles and tips from advanced metal detectorists to help you find more relics. You have those articles that people can get to. All I got to do is, I guess, type your name in Google search, and they come up with those.
Yeah, they can find a lot of those articles that I've been interviewed on or written. Some I've written myself, and just Google Gypsy Jewels, and it'll come up. And there's a lot of different articles, and then they're always welcome to. They go to my website. They can contact me and email me, and um, I'll be glad to help them out if they've got any questions on,
Mm.
where to start, where to get started. But hopefully my book will help, once it's released, help out with a lot of that and
Right.
a lot of the questions.
And in the narration part of the video, when I post it, I'll probably post some of those sites that that's important to you.
Okay.
I can post them out to people. You've had the Dirt Digest magazine. Is that one something that somebody can look at and find some articles and learn
Yeah,
something?
there's several articles on Dirt Digest magazine that's still up. There's another one called American Digger magazine. They've got a lot of great articles in there. I think Jeanette and I are going to be interviewed soon for one of their magazines. Jeanette, the psychic that I was telling you about, that I'm going to be working with. And I can let you know when that article comes out as well. Yeah, Dirt Digest magazine, American Digger magazine, pretty much. If you like he's just said, if you Google there, you'll find several different articles from over the years and stuff that's been published.
In
It's,
yeah, in my background here, strange reality, I talk a lot
uh,
about UFOs and ETs. Uh, have you ever been called out to look for like bits and pieces of a UFO craft or anything that's crashed, like in Roswell? Have you ever went there to help those
uh,
people out there,
I,
Gypsy?
that would be a dream job right there. If anybody wants to call me to come help with that, or something like you watch the show, what is that? Not Frog Ranch, but there's another one, Skinwalker Ranch, stuff like that. I would love to go.
Is that Poison Frog or something?
Uh, yeah, Blind Frog Ranch. I
Blind
can't remember.
Frog. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty popular too. Now we talk about Oak Island. Now the guy, he's an English guy, and he's the metal detector. Now, do you have met him? I think the after show, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What kind of device is he using, Gypsy?
So he uses a Mine Lab metal detector. Mine Lab are not made in the USA; they are imported, but they're great machines. I've used one for years as well. So again, kind of comparing oranges to apples, one may have a little bit more, um, cost a little more than the other. It just depends on, but basically we'll get the same. But yeah, great machines. Gary's a great guy. He's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
yeah.
Hang
I watched the show, and he's actually quite a character. He's a good character in the show. He kind of fits in really well. But I noticed one thing. Does this happen with you, Gypsy, when you go out? He has a digger. You ever notice he doesn't dig? He just sits there with that device. And my wife and I will laugh about that. Said, yeah, he knows how to get out of work, But
He
and then the other guys, the big shots, actually want to do the digging,
will
and he's
dig.
the metal detecting. Yeah, uh,
Well, I'll say this. That's a good observation, Dave, because when I was on Beyond Oak Island, they actually had Maddie Blake, the host of Beyond Oak Island, or if Marty or Rick were there, like I think Marty might have helped me dig one of the items or something like that in one of the episodes. But um, I've noticed with the producers of that show, they want to get it kind of involved as a team.
mhm.
So they will have, when I go out, unfortunately, I don't usually have somebody to help me dig. So I have to do all my digging and, you know,
Yeah,
use my and all of that. But they do that a lot on the show. I think it's just to kind of get them involved. as a team. One do the digging, one do the metal detecting. Uh, and again, they did that on the episodes that I was in. They had Maddie Blake dig all of my my targets,
That,
which is fine.
yeah.
But only thing that I don't like about that is because as a detectorist, you become so in tune with what you're doing,
Mhm.
and you kind of know exactly about how, once you've been doing it a long time, and you wear your headphones when you're detecting, and even by the sound you can tell whether if it's deeper or and you can kind of tell maybe how the object, if it's a smaller object, a larger object,
Mhm.
etc. Sometimes that person that's digging may not know that, and if you don't relate that to them, hey, I think it's going to be deep, you need to dig a wider hole, dig it deeper. If you don't relay that, they could damage the item digging it up. So sometimes I like digging my own holes sometimes, even though it's more work.
I noticed Gary kind of gives them parameters to dig in, like dig right around this, and like he's trying to protect the items they're digging.
I,
But uh, could you tell us a little bit about the character and personalities of the show? And you worked with them. Do you have a chance of working with them again, Gypsy?
Um, I hope so. I did after the show. Marty Lagina. He has, if you watch the show, the brother, Marty has his own business
Right.
company, and he has two other business partners. One that's on the show, and another business partner that's not on the show, Alan. And Marty actually hired me after the show to come do a personal um, job for him up in Michigan. That was really fun to be able to go do and have that experience. And we were actually looking for, you can look this up, it's quite interesting. I didn't know anything about it. It's called float copper.
Well,
Float, float, like FLOAT, float copper. In Michigan, there are a lot of copper mines, and if once you do the research, you'll understand that millions of years ago, when some of the copper was formed, it floated in like on these glaciers and stuff, and then it that's where the term float comes from. It floated in through these glaciers, and then once it melted and was deposited, it landed in some of these spots. So it's actually raw copper, and they call it float copper there up in the Michigan area. And he hired me to look on some property to find some of that float copper. It was a lot of fun.
yeah.
Fun.
What's the importance of it? Does it have a value or what?
It does have value. It's not as valuable as gold or platinum, or um, maybe not even as valuable as silver, but think about copper. We use copper in a lot of things.
Right.
Copper is very important in even our electronics. It's important, like our coinage, things like that. So it can be, if you find a large enough chunk of copper, especially that raw copper, it can be worth a lot of money. A lot of.
Right. Yeah. So these people, they work day and night on the Curse of Oak Island. I guess they're constantly busy. I guess the one brother who's got businesses, and I guess he had some of the money they put up first, and then they got other investors involved. So they're putting a lot of money into this thing. What do you feel about Oak Island? Do you think they're ever going to find something, and where do you think it is, Gypsy?
I think they've already found something. um, and I also feel that they may not be able to disclose everything that they find.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you know this, in a lot of the world that we live in now. Sometimes we're not always taught history. I'm trying to word this carefully.
Well, yeah, I say it directly out on my shows that the history that we know is not really true. It's
It,
not the history they've been telling us. Yes.
exactly. And I feel that they have found, I don't know this for a fact, but my intuition tells me, I mean, I've heard rumors, but I don't know for a fact, but I think that they found something that could change, you know, history forever. But will they be able to disclose all that? I don't know.
Oh, now when you were on the set and you worked on several episodes, were there anybody there watching, like federal agents or anybody like that that you noticed?
No, not with us now. I'm not sure about on the island. I mean, there could be, and I know that they've ran into a lot of red tape now, where they're probably being highly watched now, depending on what they show and what they don't show.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure about now, but it's very possible that they are being watched now.
Yeah,
And
most TV shows are that deal with something scientific or whatever. I think that tunnel complex on Oak Island, it's so extravagant. It took some intelligence to design what they're doing, because they still can't really locate it. They're getting close, and they found several vacant areas underground, but they're not there yet, and they're finding gold in the water. Uh, so it has to be somebody who's highly intelligent, and I think it wasn't anybody that was from Spain or from England. It was the Knights Templar, I believe, were building that, and they had a lot of building secrets. They were a very smart group of people. How do you feel about that? Uh,
I agree. I personally believe, just like what we were discussing, um, I think there's been a lot of technology that hasn't been disclosed to us because of greed, these days. I believe that if it if it was the Knights Templar that built that, had they had to have had some form of technology to be able to build those extravagant tunnels,
right.
just the same as with the pyramids and tunnels all over that's being found, and so much is being found on a daily basis. You mentioned giants and stuff earlier. I feel like um, a lot of disclosure is at hand, and it's slowly being happening. And who knows, maybe one of these shows might help with disclosing a lot of that information. I think little by little it's trickling out. And um, if that is the case, and it was built by the Knights Templar, and they did have some sort of technology to be able to build those tunnels with precise stuff, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
some of that will be disclosed. I hope so.
Yeah, I know that they're talking about you know uh, who found U.S. or this North American continent first. I don't think I think it was probably Knights Templar. They come over here and they visit it because they're finding a lot of artifacts from the Knights Templar, and
Right.
Christopher Columbus wasn't the first. And I agree with a lot of people; he wasn't the first. You got the Vikings that was actually before him, 300 or 400 years, and then the Knights Templar probably way back in 1800. I mean 800 A.D. But also a lot of there's these coins, the Knights Templar coins and Roman coins, Gypsy, that
Right.
they're finding that's way back in BC. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'll tell you, this is something that really opened my eyes, and that's a great point there, Dave, because um, back years ago, I'm thinking it was about 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly. I was visiting Florida, and I was metal detecting with a friend that had met me through my YouTube channel that lived in Florida, and we met up on the beach to metal detect, and we were detecting in this area, in this right under this bridge where this channel goes, where I'm sure ships from way back when have passed through there to go into the Bay Area. And you always find modern stuff, and I've always found, especially in areas where there's a lot of travelers and stuff, you find a more modern type of foreign coins. Well, here's the thing, there definitely this could be a possibility, but I ruled this out a long time ago. There are hurricanes, and they can wash in different things, of course. um, And hurricanes could also wipe out someone's coin collection and wash it in as well. But so I was metal detecting under this bridge area, and I found a very thick, small coin. I didn't know what it was at the time. I thought it was a foreign coin, kind of crusty. And my friend happened to have a loop there, and he looked at it, and we saw this bust, this of a man's face on there with like a wreath around his
Right.
head. Well, when I got home, I started really studying it, and I looked at, there was Roman numerals on the back, and found out it was a Roman coin. Now, how did that Roman coin get there? We could speculate all day. Well, not long after I found that Roman coin, there was another man, a local Florida guy, that found, I think it was 4 Roman coins in that same area where I found that one. And he was on the news, reported on the news, hey, he found those. Well, I started doing a little research and digging, and I found out that there's been Roman coins found all over the US in the past. There was even some Roman coins found in some Native American burial grounds um, in Texas. How did those get there?
Yeah.
So I started to even do more digging, and I found this one article. I don't know, I don't remember who wrote it, but there was a ship, a Roman ship, found not too far from where I found that Roman coin. And these people received that were going to dive down and excavate this ship and do all this archaeological dig and everything. Um, they had gotten the permits and everything to do this. Well, they went down and they'd already gridded out the thing under the water and everything, ready to start search on this. And then they go dive down, and someone had dumped literally tons of sand on top of this to make it impossible. It would take years and years and years just to get all that sand off that.
Right.
And come to find out, it was what do you call it? The Corps of Engineers that were ordered by some higher up political whatever to dump that sand on that. That opens up a whole new thing right there. And I've heard that this is, does it sound familiar to you? I mean, where, people
Yeah.
find bones of giants and
Right.
then they report it and then it's never to be seen again. I
Right.
mean, I think stuff happens all the time,
Now,
especially with even metal detectorists.
now, what about your Roman coin? How much worth is that? How much is it worth?
This one is a bronze Roman coin. I would say it's probably not worth maybe $100 or something like that. Now, if it was silver or gold, it would be worth a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But just the mere fact that something that old was found on U.S. ground, it blew my mind, and just kind of following that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I talked to these archaeologists and they're saying the same thing you were saying. There's a lot of Native American Indian cultures. They know a lot more. It's through we kind of say, well, that's just folklore. That's some of their stories. But no, actually, a lot of what they're saying is the truth. And I want to ask you something, since you're
mhm.
involved in this, and hopefully maybe you might be called in to research this area. The Grand Canyon all of a sudden is being closed off in certain areas, and
Yep.
the
Egyptian.
government's in charge, and they're finding Egyptian things. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Gypsy? I know you look into that stuff.
Yeah. So I do know that they definitely found Egyptian stuff there, and I do think it's been as much of it has been covered up by our government entities, whatever you want to call them. But I really feel that a lot of that is finally coming to light with the slow disclosure on a lot of things.
Mm.
We're finding out our true origins, and we're finding out, and I think so much of that, where I think that archaeology and what I do with metal detecting intertwines with, even the paranormal world and
Yes.
opening
Mhm.
that up. I mean, it's
Well,
it's it's
there's a group I might be involved in soon,
okay.
and if they need a metal detector, I'll give you a call. I mean, for different things that they're looking for or researching. Uh, so, but I'm not sure about it yet, but it's a large group, and they're forming up to do this thing and look for crazy things that people can find. Uh, you've
I would
heard,
love to.
yeah, yeah, I know you got the experience and you know what you're doing, and it's just not going out there like you said, taking a machine and waving around the ground. You have to kind of know how to use the machine. You have to follow the directions and the depths and everything that you find, and
Mhm.
you have to do it a certain way, because I see on Oak Island that Gary, he kind of does it in a certain way, and he has this little hand digger. Do you have one of those too? I guess when you get in there, you start going in like that, Gypsy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have what's called a pinpointer, and it's basically a miniature, small, handheld metal detector. And the reason why they call it a pinpointer is, let's say you've dug your plug, and here's your hole, and then you've got your excess dirt pile up here.
Mhm.
You can take that pinpointer and you can check inside that dirt to see if it's there, or you can come down in here and find out, oh no, that target is still in this hole. So it's a very handy tool. I would say it's worth its weight in gold.
How much would one of those cost in case somebody's
Not
interested?
around, it depends on what kind. Like Gary's, like me, I like to use a water submersible one. So they're around 129, 130 bucks. Um, but it's definitely worth it. Now you can get them, you can pick up like the China knockoffs for about 20, 30 bucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I saw those on Amazon. Matter of fact, and they're kind of all plastic and cheap plastic. But Gary, I guess, is since he's on a show that's a top show,
Mhm.
he's probably his name gets around into your career in metal detecting and everything, Gypsy. But your name also has gotten around to a lot of TV, and of course, you attracted the attention of Oak Island. So, I think you're what you're doing is great, and I hope that the best of luck to getting on some big projects and finding and that gal, the psychic. I hope that goes over good. Let me know
Thank-
about but you've also you said my experience with a Garrett Ace Apex all metal mode. Those are brand names for equipment, I guess. What I'm reading, Gypsy.
So the Ace Apex is, remember when I was talking about, let's say, I wish I would have brought one of my detectors here with me. I don't know if I have. I think in this photo down here, you can't see it though. I'm using a Garrett Ace. Let me see if I have it. One second. Let me see if I have a book here. They have what's called the Garrett, I don't know,
Okay.
AT,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all terrain. They have the Garrett AT Pro, the Garrett AT Max, and the Garrett AT Gold. All terrain just means it's also made for land and water, so you can use it to submerge in the water as well. The A series is more of a beginner series, so they aren't water submersible, but they are great beginner machines. And so, like when I'm testing out different equipment, like the ACE machine, I'll take it out and test it in different scenarios, like by an old homestead or maybe on the beach or something, and test out its capability. And the ACE series, especially the new Garrett Ace Apex,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably my favorite machine because it works with a multi-frequency technology, which is similar to what Gary uses on the show. Multi-frequency, instead of sending one frequency into the ground, sends multiple frequencies at the same time. So let's just say, for instance, here's a ring I found, metal detecting. Now, this one is made out of silver. And let's say some frequencies hit better on silver, where some your lower frequencies usually hit better on silver, where your gold will hit better on a higher frequency. So with by using a multi-frequency that's sending all these different signals, it's going to hit on one of those frequencies a little better. So it increases your chance of finding more objects or precious metal
Mhm.
objects
Now,
by using like
you have a diamond detector too, Gypsy,
I do.
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a little diamond tester that I will use like to test when I find something with stones um, and things like that. I also have a little kit that tests whether it's gold, 14 karat gold, 10 karat gold, that sort of thing, a little acid test that you can use. They're relatively really inexpensive. I actually also sell metal detectors and treasure hunting supplies for a company called the Digger's Den. And if anyone's interested in getting into the hobby and maybe purchasing a beginner model, um, the Digger's Den, you can just Google it. And if you purchase anything online, you can use my promo code is Gypsy, just GYPSY, all capital letters, and it'll give you a extra discount on what you purchase.
Right. Not only is metal detecting, I guess, fun and looking for something that you might find that might be really worthwhile historically or financially, it's also good to get out in the woods or in the in the open air and just it's like playing golf. You're swinging every once in a while, but also with metal detecting, you're detecting sometimes, but you're actually enjoying the outdoors. And you're a co-host, Treasure Vortex Monday podcast, and also a co-host
Yeah.
All Metal Mode Mondays podcast. So you have those podcasts, and of course you're on appearances like you are now. But yeah, it's if people are really interested in this, that's why I'm talking about. A lot of times people are wanting to begin in this stuff. That's why I always take you to the beginner type stuff, to let them know what's going on, so they can get involved in that. It's just like my wife; she'd like to be involved in that. I'd like to ask you, where are the best places to go in the States for metal detecting or doing what you're doing, Gypsy?
Some of the best places are like public parks and public schools. There's beginning to be more and more rules though around that, so you have to check with your local cities and stuff to see what their ordinances, if there's any city ordinances against that. But most of the time, beaches are like one of the best if you want to find modern jewelry and stuff like that. Of course, after a hurricane, if you're in an area where there were old shipwrecks, you can find stuff from some of these old shipwrecks sometimes that do that, that wash in. But I would say probably the best place to metal detect actually, and I've found that just by talking to people that own properties, like in fact, the shirt I'm wearing today says, "Can I metal detect your yard?" And, um,
Do you have to have a signed contract for that, or does just word of mouth do?
and a lot of times it's just word of mouth. Once people know that, hey, you're gonna leave the in metal detecting, we have what's called the metal detecting code of ethics, and it's always leave the property the way you found it or in better condition than what you found it. Like if there's trash, I always try to remove that. Um, and if I'm when you're metal detecting, like in someone's yard, maybe it's an old homestead or an old house. You want to, and they've got a nicely manicured yard. We do what's called digging a proper plug,
Mhm.
and I give some tips on how to do that in my book, as well as on my channel as well. But there's certain tips and things to make it look like you were never there. So those can be very valuable when you're wanting to detect someone's yard. But what I've found is like the old farmhouses that don't exist anymore. When you get to talking to like an old timer that says, "Oh yeah, there used to be an old house over on so and so's property. It's not there anymore," and those are fun because The building's still not there, um, but you find remnants of what was there before, kind of like I was talking earlier, when you go into those fields and you start finding little shards of glass and stuff that tells you that there was something there. Those are my favorite places to metal detect. But just to get started, sometimes your own front yard or backyard is a great place to just learn your machine and get started.
Right. When you find something on somebody else's property or even a state or federal property, do you have to split if you find something that's worth a lot of money, do you have to split that with this other person, the property owner, Gypsy?
It really depends on what agreement you had with, like, if it's private property, what agreement did you have with that owner? I've been on properties where they want to see every single thing you find. They want to know, and some people want to keep it all, and that's fine too. It's their prerogative. But at the same time, I've been to properties where they're like, I don't care what you find. I don't care if you find $1 million. Keep it all. I don't even tell me. Where there's other people that, like, if you find a cache of gold coins, well, then they may want, uh, sometimes you can have a small contract drawn up, or there's like basic contracts online that you can have printed up
Right.
that just gives a nice agreement that, hey, if I do find anything over 5,000 or more plus dollars, that I will split. I'm willing to split that with you, make it fair. So a lot of times that's usually the normal thing, is just to split it with that person or landowner.
I know my wife's been wanting to go to Arkansas there at the state park, and they
Mhm.
actually kind of grade it every day, and there's diamonds that people find.
Yeah.
And some people find some big diamonds. That's happened a few times. And also, there's a place in Arkansas that has crystals, and people
Yeah.
dig those. Do you know about those places? And have you found out anything about them, Gypsy?
Yeah, so I've been to both of those places, or I've been to several of the crystal mines there in Arkansas, and I've also been to that diamond crater there and dug for. I didn't find any diamonds, but I've had friends that have found them. I've had a friend that found a 1 carat diamond and had a really nice ring cut and made from it. So there's diamonds found there every day. But now the crystals, not this year, but last year, a bunch of my friends, in fact, this video is on my YouTube channel. They took me as a birthday kind of getaway to the one of the crystal mines there in Arkansas, and we got to dig for crystals, and it was so much fun. And some of those crystals, if you find the larger crystals, some of them are worth a lot of money.
Right.
Uh,
The blue ones or the red ones, I guess different colors.
there's different colors. We mainly dug for the white quartz crystals,
right.
and I think the biggest one I found was about like that, but it's beautiful. And they're all different sizes. I think I had one here. Let me see. I still have it that I found. I'm not seeing it right now. Oh, here's one. Here's one that I found. Just a little.
Yeah. Did they let you take that for free, or did you have to pay?
Yeah. So basically, the way it works is you pay to go in and
Right.
search and dig. And so I forget, it's like $20 a day or something like that. And you get to keep whatever you find.
Yeah.
So
It's like
uh,
the diamond place in Arkansas. You pay a fee, and they'll even rent you some tools to go out and dig.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, they'll rent, the buckets and the pans and the diggers and all that for you to go. It's a lot of fun.
Right. Now,
Um,
Gypsy, you don't dive, do you? I mean, do you dive in the water and metal detect?
just I'm not diver certified. I mainly do like shallow kind of snorkeling, that type of thing. I do have a what they call a hookah system, where you can go like 10 feet underwater, but that's pretty much all I like to go. It's
Okay.
a little creepy down there sometimes to me.
I was going to ask you now, what were some of the interesting things we're going to be closing out here? A few
Okay.
minutes. What are some of the interesting things you found? And the most expensive thing you found, Gypsy?
Okay. So one of the most expensive things I found a men's platinum wedding band. with 7 diamonds in it. It was worth around $10,000.
Wow.
So um, I've I found, oh gosh, well, a lot of helped a lady search for a $40,000 diamond ring as well, and those are really nice when you find those items and you're able to return that, to the owner. Um, but that's one of probably the most expensive things. Now I found coins that are worth a lot of money. I've found jewelry worth a lot of money. Um, but I guess kind of for a lot of us detectors, we find like a lot of like silver coins over the years. And sometimes what you want to always do is look for that key date. Maybe it was something that, might have a special, only so many were minted, and it might have uh, a flaw in it that could be worth potentially a lot of money. Um, so that's one thing you always want to keep in mind. So I would say over the years, though, I mean, I might find anywhere from um, 30 to 50 to 100 rings in one year. It just
Oh,
depends on searching. So it can add up if you know what I
yeah.
mean. Sometimes it's not just one item, it's
Right. Do you
many items.
Yeah. Do you have a buyer where you sell these things to? I mean,
Uh,
if you went to a local pawn shop, they won't give you the actual price for the ring,
right.
the diamond. That's about it. Where's the best place to sell those items you want to sell them to?
Best place is actually sometimes eBay. If you've got a friend, I actually have a friend that she actually started selling on eBay because she started. I took her what we call old dump digging, and that's when you dig in like an old city dump and
Mhm,
you find old bottles. Some of those old bottles can be worth thousands of dollars as well.
mhm,
And she started selling the bottles and some of those finds she was finding from the dumps on eBay, and then it kind of escalated from there. So she ended up starting this big eBay business, and then now if I want something sold more what it's worth, um, because you'll have certain collectors that are looking for something. So if I have a coin that I know that's worth $5,000 and I want to sell it, and if I take it to like a coin shop, they're probably only going to want to give me half of what it.
right.
So I'm going directly to those collectors that are willing to pay the full price usually.
Yeah.
So those are good. There's auctions. Sometimes just putting an ad like, that you have something special for sale, or
Mhm.
um, that helps. I mean, I found that works best for me.
Okay. Could you tell everybody, we're going to close out the show? Could you tell everybody how to get a hold of you on internet? I guess.
Yeah, sure. So some of the best ways, just type in Gypsy Jewels, and you'll somewhere in there, one of my YouTube channel will pop up, Zero Discrimination, or they can go to my website. It's gypsydigs.com. That's gypsydigs.com, and they can contact me through my website.
Hmm.
Um,
That would be great. Yeah. That's the
yeah,
best way to go to your website and they can find everything. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the
And I'm going to thank you very much. It's been interesting and it's been different, a little refreshing for me to get into
oh,
the topic.
good.
And Michelle Gypsy Woods, thank you so much for being on the show. And we want to thank everybody for listening in, and take a look at her website and take a look at some of the things you do. I know this is very interesting to a lot of people. So the curse of Oak Island has really spread that interest out to everybody. So look up things, and you've been listening to the strange reality, and with this, not really strange, some of it is what we talked about, like Grand Canyon and the Roman coins and Knights Templar, that kind of thing, a little strange. So we qualified a little bit there. Gypsy, thank you so much, Gypsy, for being on the show, and thanks everybody for listening and watching. Thank you.